Hi, I'm Noah Weinstein.
And I'm Armand Hartoonian.
And I'm Chloe Rodriguez.
And this is WeinHart! Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of WeinHart. You might recognize that the setup is a little different this time. I mean, look at us. Armand and I are sharing a mic and...
I know.
Whoa!
Budget.
Whoa, we have a guest here!
Where did the guest come from?
Whoa, we have a guest!
I teleported in here.
Ooh, wow.
I heard we were going to talk about television, and I was like, I'm there.
Wow. I wish all our guests, we could book them all like that, you know?
Man, I mean, she just knew where to go.
Right. It would be so much easier, but...
Came to the right place. So, she is from the Spotify podcast Unwatchable, and she's a really good friend of Armand and I's. Please welcome to WeinHart, our very first guest, Chloe Rodriguez.
Yay. Thanks for having me as your first guest, you guys.
Absolutely. So... one of the partial reasons we had Chloe on for this particular episode is Armand and I have decided we are going to branch out a little bit and talk about television. And who better to talk about with television than Chloe?
Oh, yeah. Because I am of the belief that television is far better than film, so... Wow, that was not a popular opinion, apparently. But you guys were nice enough to come on my podcast. If you guys are interested, Unwatchable is on Spotify and Apple, and you guys joined me for our 3 Identical Strangers episode. It was really good. If you guys want to see WeinHart on Unwatchable, look it up. And if you're interested in the documentary 3 Identical Strangers, we did a really good job of breaking that all down. So
we did. Fun. So for today's episode, we are going to be breaking down 3 eras of television. The mid-90s, which was the era of sitcoms and new comedies and things like that, and great animation. Nostalgia.
Big
Look at that shirt.
Exactly. I'm representing
my
choice.
The mid-2000s, where we began to see the rise of brand new adult content, like Breaking Bad and The Wire. And present day, which is the era of streaming overload of Disney+, Hulu, Amazon. I think every single major studio in the world is doing one of these now. Ain't that right?
I think so, no, I think so. Yeah, I mean, Disney, of course, the last thing they needed is a streaming service. They're doing very poorly right now.
So, without further ado, first up, we're going to be talking about the mid-90s.
I automatically knew which one I wanted to go for. I have a very big list of why I think the 90s was the best time for television. And I'm about to school you guys, so thanks for having me on your show, but I'm about to take you down a notch.
I'm nervous.
So when I was looking at this particular era of television, I was looking at a little bit of the beginning of the 90s, but mainly the mid-90s. I feel that every era of television leaks into the next one just a little bit. The reason that I say the 90s was the best era for television is because when you're breaking down this list of shows, there's something for every demographic, age-wise, and it's different than streaming, because I feel like in streaming, everything is kind of all over the place, and you have to dig with, is this a kid's show? Is this an adult's show? But back in the day when people were watching television on a classic television set with multiple different channels, it was very clear what the distinction was. So you had, Playhouse Disney, which launched in 1997. That was for preschoolers, and you had just shows for preschoolers there. You had some great ones like Bear in the Big Blue House, Out of the Box, the outside of Playhouse Disney, when it was the regular Disney Channel, they had Goof Troop and DuckTales.
DuckTales, every day they're out there making DuckTales.
And it was very clear that what that target audience was. You're looking at kids shows. I mean, I'm a 90s kid. I was born in 1995, and a lot of my most beloved shows come from this era. A lot of them, I mean, we have to address Nickelodeon. Because the 90s was like Nickelodeon's time to shine, really. Right. So you're looking at these shows like Hey Arnold, Rocko's Modern Life, Rugrats, SpongeBob started in 1999. It's still going strong. SpongeBob SquarePants, SpongeBob SquarePants, SpongeBob SquarePants. They had so many things to offer for that age range, and things that still hold up today. I mean, there's so much nostalgia. They did a really good job of being targeted for their core audience of kids, but not trying to dumb things down. I mean, I can watch some of these shows today and they still hold up. And then you're getting some classic like teen shows like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. You have Boy Meets World, Sister Sister. And then we got to pull out the big guns and look at what was being catered to adults on main network television. This was the era that NBC in particular was reigning supreme. Will and Grace, Frasier, and I would be remiss if I didn't bring out the big guns and talk about Friends. Friends revolutionized the concept of the sitcom. I think so many sitcoms after Friends have just been trying to be Friends. Look at modern day sitcoms, or even sitcoms that just came out after Friends ended. Look at How I Met Your Mother or New Girl. These are shows that wanted to emulate the format of friends in their 20s, like all hanging out and just being young and stupid. And every sitcom since then has been compared to Friends. And then a lot of other comedies get compared to Seinfeld, for example. If they don't follow the Friends formula, shows like It's Always Sunny always get compared to Seinfeld. Right. Shows that take something minute and make a big deal out of them. I just think that when you're looking at the shows that were available in the 90s, so much of what's coming out now is being compared to shows that came out then. And I mean, I'm wearing the shirt now, so I gotta mention if you're a diehard Simpsons fan like I am, I mean, everyone says that the first 10 seasons are the best. And when did those first 10 seasons come out? In the 90s. Mm-hmm. So.
Right. Wow. Very true.
Wow.
I rest my case.
That was pretty good.
That was good. All right. I guess I'm up next with the mid-2000s. I'll be covering everything from basically 2004, 2005 to around the early 2010s. So around 2014, 2015, I would say. So the mid-2000s to me was this really great sweet spot because we were just starting to get into the era of that there is a new form of storytelling in television. And the new form of storytelling is make it more cinematic. Because as great as all of those shows were, one of the biggest distinctions that people were griping or complaining about was, oh, this is television. And they just write it off like it's television. Ugh, get that crap away from me. I want to watch a movie. But HBO and Showtime particularly have catered to this kind of audience, that they listened and they said, you know what? I agree. There is a lot of television that is television and not cinematic. So our answer to that is...
Surprise, motherfucker.
Are you following me now?
You better have a hell of a reason for being here.
Dexter is a big part of this. Even though the ending wasn't exactly the greatest, that was a massive part of this era. It kind of redefined a lot of things about television. It redefined the anti-hero trope. The Sopranos, even though that came out, I think in the late, like 1999, I believe, most of that carried through the 2000s era. And I would even argue that that show is kind of, I mean, it was inspired by a lot of films, but it was one of the first to really blend filmmaking and what people call episodic television together into one thing. And I would be remiss if I didn't say the biggest proprietor of this entire era, and that is Breaking Bad. Now it's this popular show that everybody talks about. But what people forget about Breaking Bad was it did not start out that way. The first couple of seasons of this show, right up until the very end, actually kind of had mediocre to moderate viewership, despite the incredible quality of the show. Around the fourth or third season of this show, this little streaming service, this little thing comes out called Netflix. And they put Breaking Bad on Netflix, not just in America, but all over the world. And people started gaining a lot of interest of this show, not because of viewership in television, but because Netflix had just a little small portion of what to do with Breaking Bad. So, by the end of the series, because everybody was able to catch up on it on Netflix, people tuned into AMC. People got AMC subscriptions. People that canceled TV regardless got television just to watch those episodes. And for a long time, the series finale of Breaking Bad became one of the highest rated episodes of television of all time, and one of the most memorable shows ever.
You're goddamn right.
There was no such thing as binge watching or I'm gonna binge this. I've only heard this after Breaking Bad and onwards. It's been binge House of Cards, binge Stranger Things, binge Orange is the New Black, binge. Breaking Bad was the beginning of that. Streaming services and network television were both doing quite well at this time because network television wasn't completely written off as, oh, it's network television, it's garbage. And streaming services weren't exactly at their height of, oh, this is streaming, this is kind of new and weird. We were in this really happy medium where both were benefiting. Another show that really, I would be ridiculous if I didn't discuss this one, but The Office. I would even argue that the documentary style filmmaking and style of The Office, it changed the game for these kinds of comedies too. Parks and Rec became a huge thing. And all these other shows that kind of had this handheld footage kind of style, that was all inspired by The Office, a network show that has transferred beautifully to streaming. So that is my argument. I rest my case for the mid-2000s.
Banging your gavel.
Banging my gavel. Yes. All right, Armand.
Okay. You guys ready?
I'm very interested to see what you have.
I'm going to be covering streaming today. Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, what have you. Let's just be upfront about this. Like, first and foremost, is it not amazing that you guys have convenience at the, at the tips of your fingers? Anytime you want to go and watch a TV show, even Friends, like you can even go back and watch the show Friends, you can watch Breaking Bad, you can binge it over and over again, repeat. You can watch it until your eyes turn blue. That's how amazing Netflix is, and Hulu and all these streaming services. But getting into more of the nitty gritty and I'll throw some actual facts out there so I'm just not, First and foremost, the advantages are clear sound and picture. These companies make sure that their cinematographers or their camera guys or sound people, whatever, that they get the best possible sound and the best possible picture. They have cameras. I know for a fact that Netflix has certain cameras that they have to have, that they shoot with. They have like a whole website of if you want to have content with us, you can choose from these cameras to shoot with. Yeah, so unlike pirated sites, the video and audio quality of the movies are usually high, and you will be streaming these videos and this content in HD. Now they've taken your favorite shows like Boy Meets World, Breaking Bad, Sister, all this great stuff, and what have they done? They've remastered this, digitally remastered for you. And it's crisp and it's clear and it's there for you. Like I said, instant viewing. You will get immediate access to these movies even when you're on the road. Some platforms charge a flat monthly fee in return, but more or less you'll get access to the program and you can watch whatever you want to watch whenever you want to watch it. Oh, did I mention there is no download time, Streaming platforms have made it simpler for people to watch their favorite TV shows, okay, without worrying about download time. All you need is a stable internet connection for you to watch any show. And, I know that's hard to get these days, but if it's stable, then you're good to go. No need for memory space. You don't have to worry about running out of disk space or memory space. If you have these huge videos to your computer, that may take up vast spaces on your computer, well, that may affect the performances of your computer, but it's not going to affect the memory. So that's completely different. Also, instant playback. I mean, you can go back and watch these things as many times as you want. As I said, till your eyes turn blue. You can watch it. You can enjoy it again. You can bring cousins, watch it with uncles, aunts. You can find a random stranger on this and say, hey, do you like Friends? Because I like Friends. Let's watch Friends. You can do anything. In the infant stage of the internet, there was a requirement for webmasters to include a link on their website. So if they wanted to share a video with their visitors, the visitors had to download the videos first and then watch them later on. However, and this is a big however, video streaming has changed all this, so you can get instant playback whenever you want, What else? Oh, streaming websites offer you a chance of choosing from their huge list of options, There are no limits as to how many videos you can watch in a day as long as you have paid your subscription. So you pay for a subscription. Netflix is what, like $6.99 a month? Hulu, Amazon, probably somewhere around that range. I don't think it'd be more than like maybe $10.99 or anything more than, it shouldn't be more than $15. The viewer has the control. Back in the day, the networks would have the control. Tune in to Boy Meets World, 8 p.m. on whatever day, and you had to be there at 8 p.m. and watch it, or else you're not going to see it. You could, and your only option at that point was, oh, I got to do a TiVo. I got to TiVo it. I got to, video on demand. I got to record it so I can watch it later. But now you don't even have to record it because you just show up and you watch it,
Wow.
Can you believe that? So,
I'm gonna start with Noah.
Okay.
So my argument against the mid 2000s is that I think while some networks and some providers were doing a good job of creating content, I think that overall there was kind of a sense of free fall. A lot of the shows that had carried out from the 90s that were popular ended. I would say that the era of 90s shows ended at around 2005 officially. Most of them had gone off the air by then. And they were kind of in this weird medium between that and the streaming age, where some networks couldn't quite catch up. I mean, The Office saved NBC, but a lot of their other programming, it's taken them a really long time to kind of find their footing after that. While we were taking off into the mid 2000s with the rise of technology more, what we're losing is that sense of must-see TV. Because now with the introduction of TiVo and being able to pause things and record them and go back and stuff, we're losing that kind of familial sense that you got in the 90s of everyone, we're gonna watch our favorite show, we're gonna gather around together. I know that Friends is on at 8:30 on Thursdays, and so my family and I are gathered around the TV at 8:30 on Thursdays, all watching together. They had blocks of television like TGIF or Must See TV that kept people connected, and with that rise of technology that we were getting in the mid 2000s, we lost that a little bit, which is why I'm maintaining my belief that the 90s was best.
So I'm going to counter that by saying, yes, we did lose a little bit of, we have to watch Friends at 8 p.m. on a Friday or whatever day it came out. But you could also argue that it freed up people's schedules. It allowed people to plan a day or plan a time when everybody was available to watch the show, not force them into a corner of hey, you have to be here at this time, my house, watch Friends, or all that kind of stuff. Because I know people that absolutely made dinner events, made party events, and just watched a show that they recorded or they TiVo'd or whatever the fact, but it was because of that technology they were able to make it happen. Game of Thrones, for example, which came out in 2011. It's like mid-2000s, beginning of the 2010s. A lot of people gathered around that. And they never really did it for a live stream. They did it for when everybody was available. We could all just gather around, eat accordingly. It gave us time to digest what we just saw, because these shows, and the shows that were doing very well, started to become very, there's a lot more details to it than a lot of televisions. And it birthed this era of, we don't just watch television, we analyze it, we break it down. To the technology point, I would say that the technology in the long run, and even in that era, I think kind of saved a lot of networks as opposed to hurt a lot of networks. It also created a lot of cult favorites. It gave rise to brand new channels out there that never would have even had a shot in the 90s when it was NBC, ABC, all these kinds of programs. It gave rise to these obscure comedies like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, or Portlandia, which is another very obscure show. Because we had this new break-in, that gave rise to all of these fandoms and all of these popular shows, and just new ways to just tell stories overall.
I think it made it harder for them to keep track of ratings when we transitioned into that era of being able to record and watch things later. Like, look at a show like Community, which came out in 2009.
Right.
So a lot of people had TiVo at this time and maybe weren't watching it live. But at the time, they were still relying on Nielsen ratings and ratings of people watching in real time. And so you could look at a show like that did not do well when it originally came out on television live, but it was doing very well in like rewatches as far as DVR goes. Sure. But they weren't looking at that. So it made it seem like it was doing more poorly than it was.
But the one thing about Community is that it actually had a longer life than it was presumed it would have. Even though networks did not pick up on this, somebody eventually did. And it actually ended up getting a full 5-season run in a climate where that could have been canceled easily. The internet gave it that platform because there was this outcry of people that were like, oh my god, you just canceled this show. A show like Arrested Development, per se, got the can very early because we did not have internet statistics, even though some people were like, this is a brilliant show, it's so damn funny, got canceled after 3 seasons, like that.
Well, I feel like that leads us more towards the streaming era because, I mean, Arrested Development was brought back by Netflix. The thing I will say about your argument, Armand, is I feel like the appeal of streaming, a lot of it has to do with being able to go back and watch shows that you have nostalgia for. Hulu has a bunch of old Nickelodeon cartoons on it. It's also we're also in the era of reboots and remakes and doing stuff like bringing back Arrested Development, stuff from my era, like stuff that people have a nostalgia for and want to bring back. And I know that nostalgia gets kind of a bad rap nowadays because people are sick of it, but people are nostalgic for those things for a reason because, I mean, if you're looking at all the technology that goes into streaming, you actually do have to have a lot that goes into it. I know, like, once you have it, it is more convenient, but not only do you have to have, like, the appropriate setup, you have to have an internet connection, you have to have either a Roku or an Apple TV or a smart TV or some way to get it. A lot of people consume it that way. You have to pay for however many streaming platforms you want in order to have access to your shows. Whereas back in the day, all you had to do is plug in a television and get signal. I mean, I didn't have cable when I was growing up, and I could still watch a lot of good shows because it wasn't dependent on having to purchase a bunch of different packages of even cable. You could watch public television. I grew up on PBS Kids.
Right. No, I feel like every era that's been presented here today has had its merits, has had its pros and cons. One thing I just thought of is that Netflix and Hulu and all these streaming services, they kind of help archive these shows in a sense. It's kind of it's archived. Like they take it, they put it on their streaming service, and it's there. It's like a library of My point is that I appreciate Netflix and I appreciate Hulu and I appreciate all these streaming services for the television shows. There was definitely a lot of nostalgia, of course, and when these things were aired on those special dates, they can't be re-aired again. That was a special day where they shot that particular episode and aired it on that date, and that's history, and you can't take that away from anybody. But the fact that you can use Netflix and Hulu and Amazon and all these other streaming services to walk down memory lane and have that feeling of wow, I can enjoy the shenanigans of Cora and Sean again in Boy Meets World. I'm sorry, I love Boy Meets World. I was also a 90s kid like Chloe. I grew up on all these shows, mostly Disney Channel, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, but that was even Disney Channel at the time. Lizzie McGuire, Phil the Future, all these amazing.
You're winning my case for me.
But but you're not wrong. I just feel that streaming is just such a convenient way and such a comfortable way of viewing things, because with today's schedules and the way people are running around, going to work, taking care of kids, running all these errands and whatnot, you can find any time you want to just sit down and kick back and relax and, have a cup of tea, maybe, have a nice cold beer, pop that open, or, sip on your hot tea while you enjoy your favorite show. So, there's that too. But yeah, so.
Okay.
I feel like I will. I'll have to have you guys on Unwatchable and really we're gonna battle this out for 3 hours, no holds bars,
a 3-hour battle, Unwatchable WeinHart battle of all this. So that was a really fun debate, everybody.
It was a pleasure arguing with you gentlemen.
Pleasure.
It was a pleasure arguing these points of eras of television. But I will say that despite it all, I love television, I love film, and all three of these eras absolutely gave us something incredible.
Absolutely.
Especially mine.
But my era though, can't argue with certain. All right, everybody. So that concludes an episode of WeinHart. So thank you again to Chloe Rodriguez. Unwatchable is on Spotify and Apple Music.
Please check that out. Definitely.
Check out Unwatchable and subscribe to WeinHart.
All right, guys. Till next time. Take care.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.
Peace out.